Hey everybody, it's finally back after a
We're
year of
back.
dormancy. After a year of
Yeah,
dormancy, Horsemen podcast is back.
yeah. We
Yeah,
couldn't leave you guys. We couldn't leave you guys without doing our traditional album of the year list. We always have to do that.
yeah. Yeah, and for those who are still fans of the show, we are so sorry we didn't do any episodes this
Hmm.
year. We all
Yeah,
got busy, and of course,
yeah,
pretty much all the other hosts we have, they're too busy to do the show anymore, so
yeah.
it's just down to
Don't get me.
us.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. We're still pretty good friends with Hannah Archer Raphael. We're still like this. We just, I guess, life happens, and it's fine. We're still
Mhm.
good friends and all that, and that's we're still planning. Hopefully, one day we can all meet, probably at a festival. 'Cause that's the main goal.
Highly doubtful on
Yeah.
my end.
Hey, you never know, man. You never know. You never know.
If it's gonna be any festival, it should be Maryland Death Fest.
Probably Maryland Death Fest, or is there all the other festivals close to the East Coast?
In terms of massive festivals, not really,
Yeah, yeah. Because
not really.
I was thinking somewhere in New York, but I've never heard any New York like metal festivals. Maybe like one and done's, but like
The
not.
Philadelphia Metal and Beer Fest would be the next closest one, but that's small in comparison to
Hmm.
MDF.
Yeah, I mean
I would have
maybe
I would have
L.
said I would have said Full Terror Assault, but this was the last year they're doing it. It's not happening,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
it
It's
could be on
not.
break like MDF was last year.
Yeah. Or unless we go to Europe, either Vagos or Vodkin or Hellfest, which that will be amazing.
Yeah. But anyway, so before we get into everything, why don't we talk about the year of metal as a whole in
Mm-hmm.
review somewhat? Like, I even said it on my year end list video almost 2 weeks ago that it was really the year of prog and death metal.
Oh yeah,
Like, prog,
definitely.
especially, like, not just in the traditional prog sense, but it was mostly within extreme metal where prog really shined, like mostly in death metal, good amount of black metal, but then there were some new prog bands I checked out, like Advocacy, which I would say would have been an honorable mention on my year end list. Their first album was really good. Uh, of course, discovering newer prog bands like Pia Mater and In Vain, who are another
Mhm.
honorable mention. In fact, they were number 30 on my year end list. Just a ton in terms of prog. And then in death metal, whether it's the old school sounding death metal bands or death metal bands getting in more into prog, death metal was really what reigned supreme this year.
Yeah, yeah. I don't disagree with that. A lot of also the old guard came up with some amazing albums. Like with
Judas
I'll mention
Priest,
Judas
Judas
Priest.
Priest, Saxon,
Mm-hmm.
Riot,
Yeah. I
uh,
mean, I don't know.
but I'd say that was one of the big disappointments this year.
Yeah, that was one of the weakest albums for me thus far. For the run,
Which was
like
after from their run of Blood of the Nations to Too Mean to Die, it was like it was bound to happen that they would have a miss, but probably on their next album they'll get it all back on track for the most part.
yeah. We've had some retirements also. Nico McBrain retired from Iron
Most recent
Maiden.
one.
Yeah, which I never thought that I would get to see Maiden for the second time this year and the last time with Nico. I never thought that was ever gonna happen.
Yep. But now part of me wonders because Nico said I think he was retiring from live shows. Makes me
Mhm.
wonder if he'll still be in the band in the studio
I
to
think
do albums.
I think he's still gonna be in the studio, but man, I don't think. I mean, I would love to see another Maiden album, but I don't know, man.
I don't think they need to do another one.
I
What
don't
else do
know.
they have to prove?
Honestly, I've always said it. They should have ended with the Book of Souls. That should have been like the end of Maiden, but I'm not complaining. I love Maiden.
Senjutsu was good.
Senjutsu was good. A bit too long, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They could have cut a lot of the songs or short of them, but still amazing songs. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I mean, uh, in terms of like shows as well, there's been a lot of shows this year. I went to a lot of shows this year. I got to meet some artists. Like I got to meet Tim Ripper Owens. I got to meet Dallas from Nile, and of course the
Narcotic
big one,
Wasteland.
and of course the big one. I got to meet Jeff Becerra from Possess, which I never thought that was ever going to happen.
Hmm.
And of course, next year, which we'll talk about after we do all this, we got a lot of stuff to talk about next year.
And then for me, went to one show, and that was Exciter, Midnight Wraith, and Hellwitch the week before I turned Dirty 30, where I finally got to meet DK. I met all of Exciter. I met Pat from Hellwitch, and met Athanar from Midnight. And also got recognized in the crowd by Ben from Acid Mass, who was in the crowd and gave me both of his albums, including the new one, and he gave me an advance copy that wasn't set to come out till a couple days afterwards. So I had first dibs on that, and the show itself was awesome. But as far as like for next year, I'm gonna wait and talk about like the albums I'm looking forward to, because that's going to be a video on the channel on New Year's Eve, because that's my New Year's Eve tradition, is to talk about what I'm looking forward to next year. And then as far as like shocking moments this year in metal, Slayer coming back to do shows.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way. And it was kind of weird because Kara King was doing his own thing.
Solo
I was
project,
like, well,
yeah.
his solo project, which I'm like, is that scrapped? Because I'm guessing Slayer's gonna probably do more shows, not as much as they used to anymore, but like frequent shows there and there, which I would love to see them. Honestly, if they can't
Just
make
to
probably
say
those
that you've seen Slayer.
exactly, I would love to see them. What else is shocking? Trying to remember what else
Well,
happened.
shocking in a bad way. The whole Tim Bessus stuff that came out last month.
Yeah, that was ugly.
People wondered why all of the members of As They Lay Dying left before tours. They caught wind of what happened in September with him, and it didn't get out until last month. And it's like, oh dear, Tim hasn't learned his lesson.
Yeah, that was ugly.
Talk about a fall from grace, literally.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody gets the pun, the reference, then good on you. But yeah, that whole thing, and I just love the fucking memes that have been coming out about it, like a shot of Tim with the shirt off, pounding his chest on the Statue of Liberty. Like, what the?
What are you, King Kong or something?
Apparently so. Which is sad considering I used to be a fan of Tim until 11 years ago when that whole Hitman for Hire thing went awry. And now he just continues to make himself look foolish with steroids and stuff.
I'm trying to remember what other bands came back for tours, because I know there was a couple of bands that came back like out of nowhere. There's been announcements for tours for next year. I know that much.
One of the big underground ones is I think it's Nile and 6 Feet Under, which they're going to be at a couple areas nearby. But my biggest worry is that if 6 Feet Under have to play before Nile, I would have to sit through a 6 Feet Under show. If Nile was going on before 6 Feet Under, I would go and then leave after Nile.
I think Nile is the closer because it's mainly. Is it co-headlining or is Nile the main opener?
I think it's co-headlining between the two, but again, we don't know who's the closer because if it's Nile as the closer, you have to sit through a 6 feet under set, which I don't want to do. But if Six
I
Feet Under is
know,
the closer, I'll go watch the other bands in Nile and just leave after Nile's done.
I know, but I was gonna say you still want to meet. I mean, I don't know. Would I sit through a 6 feet under set?
I would not. I would not put myself through that torture. I would not.
Probably me neither. But again, I
But
would love
again,
to
you could
meet
meet Jack Owen. That would be the only reason to stay is to meet Jack Owen. Other than that,
and Barnes. Come on, you
if
gotta.
if I saw Burns, I'd want to punch him right in the mouth.
Damn you, Nick. Volcano Insurance.
Just get the damn insurance, you son of a bitch. Arms.
What other? And for next year, of course, the big for me, AC/DC finally announcing a tour for next year. So, yeah, for me, that's a big hype.
But there is a possibility I might be going to one of the nights of Sonic Temple Fest in Columbus in May, the Friday day, because that's where the most metal's happening. Because Sonic Temple, it's like a mix of underground metal and butt rock all in one. But Friday is a stacked day because you got Black Dahlia, Frozen Soul, Gate Creeper, Cannibal Corpse, Hatebreed, 200 Stab Wounds. And then the main stage. Listen to this lineup for the main stage: Overkill, Exodus, Testament, Alice Cooper, Rob Zombie, Metallica.
Ooh,
that is like probably the best main stage you could have at a festival, arguably.
Yeah, that's
because you got a mix of thrash bands, classic rock, and shock rock.
Oh yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, that should be a killer. But you should
But
definitely.
that remains to be seen if we'll be able to get a ticket or not. But with that being said, let's get into gifts. I'll go ahead and do mine since I only have two. One from Hannah, one from you. I'll do the one from Hannah first. So
see what she got us, because last year she got all of us a bath. Which that was funny.
The struggles after you trim your nails and your fingertips kind of hurt after a little bit.
Yeah, the struggle is real.
Fucking tape. Oh, we got a double pack.
Ooh.
So first we have. Dodd Heemsgaard, Black Medium Current.
Never heard of that one.
I think this was the album I kept hearing about last year. Dodd Heemsgaard, this was a band that Fenriz had going in the 90s, but he's not there anymore. I think if I recall, this is like avant-garde, prog, black metal.
Yeah, it gives me Pink. Just by the album cover, it gives me Pink Floyd vibes.
Yeah, and I heard, I kept hearing about this album last year, but I never got around to checking it out. So that's going to actually be pretty cool. And then the other one? Ooh. Rotting Christ. Kataton. Mona Aetoy. It's
just say Kata. That's like shorter.
Kataton. So this was the album before Rituals, I think, in 2013.
Yes,
I think it was.
Yeah, no. This was the album. Yeah, before Rituals, because that has the 666 song. Is it? I think it is. It's like XEV.
It's the last track.
Yeah, it's 666 pretty much.
Yeah, and I've been needing to get more Rotting Christ, so thank you, Hannah, for this one. All right, so that, I think, those were, well, actually, the Dodd Heemsgaard was from Peaceville, and then Rotting Christ was on Season of Mist, but now on to what you got me.
Yeah, I always get yours from Media Rush, because Media Rush has very good stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh shit.
Oop. And the first one is
Ooh, Chemist.
mm-hmm.
Chemist Hunted. Yeah, and I've been needing to get more Chemist.
Been wanting to
And
get that one for a long
Chemist Desolation. So this is getting closer to
time.
completing the Chemist catalog.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks, man. These were pretty cool. So
Yeah.
yeah, closer to completing the
Yeah.
Chemist catalog.
Yeah. And it sucks that I got you that Haunted before I did because I love that album. I love that album.
All right, now your stuff.
All right, let's go with Hannah. If I were to guess, knowing Hannah, it's been like 2 years in a row she got me Solstafir. So if I were to guess, she got me Solstafir for one of the albums. I could be wrong, or maybe she got me the same ones that you did. All right, let's see here. We got 2 albums here. I can feel 2. Let's go with the Digipack. Oh, thank God I didn't buy it.
Oh, the new Blood Incantation.
Yes. Yes, I've been wanting to get it for a while now. Yes. Oh man. I'll talk about it more in my list because I have it in my top
Same
10
here.
for this year.
Mhm.
And next one, it's a regular CD sleeve. Rituals. Yeah, I guess she was. I guess she was in a Roddy Christ kind of mood.
I would say so. And I still don't have that one yet.
I don't have that Kata either, but thank you, Hannah. All right, so that's Hannah's. Now yours. Now, if I were to guess, you have got me 2 Ulcerate albums. One when I won the Masters of Metallum, and the other one when for my birthday. If I were to guess, because I just feel one, you got me 1 Ulcerate album. I could be wrong, but let's see. All right, here we go. Oh, I feel 2 albums. Both Digipacks. So the first one is I knew it. Somewhere Ulcerate.
Stare into Death.
Stare into Death Be Still. Oh, this was their previous album, if I remember correctly.
2020. Yep.
2020. Yeah. Man, I think I had this one in my honorable mentions will be that 2020 album of the year list. God, I can't believe it's been 4 years already.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one. Damn you, Levi.
The new one.
Oh, Cutting the Throat of God. Man, I'm full of confession. I need to listen to this one more. I only need to listen to the first single, but I heard it's fucking amazing. Oh man, and I like how the packaging is if you look at it carefully.
Yep.
Ooh, this is gonna be really good listening to. But thanks, Levi. And that's it for me.
So you only had just those 2.
Yeah, I think Archer was gonna get us something later on, and Raphael was gonna get us something later on as well.
Yeah, I still need to figure out what, like, for Hannah and Archer. It's hard for me to get him anything because trying to get his address figured out is a pain in the ass.
Oh, trust
me. And then
me,
Raphael, I don't know if he's moved again or not. So
no, he still lives where he lives.
Yeah. But anyways, with all that done and over with, now let's get into our list. So I will start it off with my list. So, of course, a couple people in the chat already know, but Ricky doesn't. So my number 10, and I think you will be surprised I don't have this higher. Opeth, The Last Will and Testament.
Really? I was maybe guessing in your top 5 at least.
I will argue, though, the more I listen to it, I would say it would climb higher. But for now, I have it at 10. I mean, this album, Opeth is back to kind of like a perfect balance between their old school style and what they've been
Hmm.
for the last decade. Like I said
Hmm.
before, this feels like the lost transition album between Watershed and Heritage. Like it feels like
Yeah.
the perfect bridge between those two sounds. And they did it wonderfully. Like I know people, and I'm included, wish the guitars could be heavier and more crunchy, but it sounds like a very heavy album for like 1975, which I like that aesthetic. Like the guitars are heavy, but they sound like a mid 70s heavy, which is appropriate. Of
Mm,
course, Michael
like a
kind of
Genesis kind of thing.
like Rainbow, maybe a little like the heavier side of Genesis guitars. But
Hmm.
Michael growling again is awesome, and he sounds just as great as he did back then. But still, a story never told. The closer, arguably one of their most beautiful songs they've ever written,
Oh yeah.
and also the first one with Walteri, formerly of Paradise Lost, on drums. And I was watching
Mm.
the documentary that came with this edition on
How
Blu-ray.
was it?
It's good. It's a good documentary. The only disappointment was I wish they could have gotten interviews with Joey Tempest and Ian Anderson,
Ah, that
but what
sucks.
was but what was most revealing was actually two things. First, Walteri does backing vocals. He's got a good voice. He kind of has like a clean voice that's similar to Michael, but in the lower register.
Really?
Yeah, and then the other big revelation, I had heard rumors and stories that it was Walteri that convinced Michael, hey, remember that thing you used to do with death metal? Maybe we ought to get back to it. No, actually, it was all Michael's choice to bring the growls back because when they did their last couple of tours of playing fan voted
Hmm.
songs, playing like stuff
Yeah.
they haven't played in years or never played before, kind of inspired him to get back into the death metal side of their sound, even though he says he doesn't listen to death metal anymore. But it got him back into that spirit. So, as great as this album is, I'm actually more excited for what's going to happen next. Will they get heavier and do more with the growls? Who knows? But yeah, my number 10, Opeth, Last Will and Testament. Number
All right.
9, and this starts a triplet run of old school sounding death metal. First, Skeletal Remains, Fragments
Oh,
of the Ageless.
so good.
Basically, this is a Morbid Angel album that should have been released after Gateways to Annihilation. Because musically, there's so much Morbid Angel on here, but also a good amount of like old Death and Cannibal Corpse and Blood Red Throne. Any old school death metal band definitely is on here. And of course, Chris Monroy starting to move away from doing the Martin Van Drunen vocals and more into something of his own. But I mean, top to bottom, these songs are just pummeling, yet great melodic sections on here too. And you close it out with a badass cover of Messiah of Rage by Hate Eternal.
Ooh.
So, yeah, just killer stuff all the way through. Granted, lineup's not the same now because I guess Chris Monroy's trying to be like Chuck, and it's like he has his own ideas on who can perfect what he wants, which nothing really wrong with that, but maybe communicate with everybody a little bit better, but that's beside the point. But yeah, Skeletal Remains. Coming in at my number 8,
Bleh.
Necrot, Lifeless Birth. This one, basically, this is like if you took Morbid Angel and Bolt Thrower and combined them. I would say more Bolt Thrower than Morbid Angel. Like, this almost feels like a proper continuation of Bolt Thrower after War Master.
Ooh, yeah.
Awesome grooves and triplet chugs and double time, but also some of those Morbid Angel tremolos. Plus this album cover.
Oh
That's
yeah.
badass cover with fucking
Is that
like
like a bat or a demon?
like a demon that's giving birth to a bunch of people.
Hmm. Maybe that's where we all come from.
But and even the back shot's pretty cool too.
Yeah, kind of like a end of the world kind of thing.
But yeah, this album's fucking killer. Like, Cut the Cord, Drill the Skull are catchy,
Hmm.
especially the opening riff of Cut the Cord, that awesome like triplet chug and tremolo before it gets into like the bull thrower double time. It's
Cut
just
the crow, cut the cord. Pull the plug much?
coming in at number 7, we have Laceration I Erode. And this is only the second album from this band from California. And yeah, this is, to put it at its best terms, to me, this is honestly what the new Blood Red Throne should have been like. Like, I didn't have Blood Red Throne in my year end list because it was good, but I would say it was a bit of a disappointment. But this sounds like old Blood Red Throne, like Come Death and Souls of Damnation, like that era, but also there's a good amount of later Death, a little bit of Cannibal Corpse, and of course Skeletal Remains a little bit as well.
Mm-hmm.
Which musically it feels like Blood Red Throne and Cannibal Corpse, but the vocals sound like a hybrid of Martin Van Turen and John Tardy. Which I think that's a hell of a combination. And musically, these guys just come up with some badass stuff. So yeah, I can't wait to hear more from Laceration. My number 7. Number 6, and yeah, I will go ahead and say it. I still am a giant fan of this band's current run, and I like it more than some of their classic run. Dark Throne, It Beckons Us All.
I had a feeling you were gonna have Dark Throne on the list.
I mean, to me, lately they can't do any wrong. They can't. Like, ever since arguably Circle the Wagons up to here, it's like a steady flow of just greatness, in my opinion. And it's no different here. Plus, like, it's the riffs. It's the fucking riffs that sell me on this modern era of Dark Throne. Like, Bird People of Nordland, The Heavy Hand feels like a perfect Celtic Frost song. Black Dawn Affiliation, Lost Pines, or The Lone Pines of the Lost Planet. And again, just I love the production. It sounds like a late 70s, early 80s mix. But it doesn't sound terrible like Transylvanian Hunger. But yeah, I will still say this is better than that album. Bite me. But yeah, this I'm not a big fan of that album. It's
Don't get me wrong. I mean, I like Transylvanian Hunger, but if you were to tell me which is my favorite Dark Throne album, A Blaze in Lawrence Sky by far.
yes,
But Transylvanian Hunger, I mean, let's just admit it. It was Varg trying to be Varg.
It wasn't even that. It wasn't even that. It's the fact that all the songs just follow the same mold. It's just blasts and tremolos the entire time, and it's like, give me some tempo changes, give me some riff changes here. Thank God they moved away from that real quickly, and we're into this where it's like you get everything. You get doom, you get mid-tempo, you get borderline thrash. It's just awesome. And I like Nocturno Colto's vocals now, where he's sounding like if Tom Warrior was a black metal vocalist as opposed to being more on the death metal side.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Dark Throne, I fully expect we might be getting a new album from them either late in 2025 or early 2026 at the rate they're going. Seems like every year and a half they release something now. Which
every year and a half.
So now we're into my top 5, and at number 5, in my opinion, the best of the old school sounding death metal albums, Ripped to Shreds, Sanshi.
Mm-hmm.
Good Lord, these guys are a band that's
riff.
And also, to me, these guys feel like the proper continuation of bands like Entombed and General Surgery, like later era Carcass, Dismember, Asphyx, Bolt Thrower, like all old school death metal with touches of thrash and grind. I mean, the opening track, In the Court of Wan Luang, basically sounds like a modernized Left Hand Path, like the way it's structured. And then Horrendous Corpse Resurrection, the harmonized solos on that song is just incredible. And I mean, Andrew Lee, you're a genius.
Mm-hmm.
You're an absolute genius, and this is hands down the best band he has. And he's got a lot of bands, and this is the best one of the bunch. So, Sanchi ripped to shreds. Number 4, for my money, the best Doom offering this year, Crypt Sermon, The Stygian Rose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could almost argue this is also old school heavy metal too, because there's a lot of like little hints of Judas Priest on here, but it's still very much in the vein of like Sabbath, Candlemass. I mean, the title track alone is worth getting this album for. And it's crazy to think that now some of the members of this band are also in Horrendous too.
Hmm.
So 2 great bands kind of associated now with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I almost thought, like, I remember putting together my top 30 list. It was back and forth between this and Pallbearer for me for best Doom album.
Oh
But I think
man.
because of the more classic metal lenient stuff on here is what sold me on Crypt Sermon more. And I would probably say thus far, only their 3rd album, I'd say this is the best work they've done yet. And I was a big fan of their previous album from 2019, but I think this might have topped it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Coming in at number 3, Jotun, Kinship. Probably in terms of like prog, like standard prog, but also a lot of death metal, this is one of the best. I mean, basically, as I keep saying, if you've never listened to the Jotun, think of Old Opeth and Bortnagar combined. That's essentially Jotun. And Bortnagar was just outside of my top 10 for me. But this album, the riffs, the drumming, but most especially the vocals. John Aldara, I now need to listen to Baron Earth and his other bands that he's in because he's become now one of my top 10 favorite vocalists of all time now after listening to this. Especially that chorus on Mistland. I will still say the best chorus of the year was that song.
Oh yeah.
Also, probably in my opinion, the most beautiful song of the year is Iridescent Way. Like, John's channeling Roy Khan from Camelot in that song with his voice, from like the lows to the highs, just top to bottom, masterful. And little announcement here, January 13th, I think it will be, we're going to be interviewing Jesper Graz, one of the guitarists of Jotun, on here, so be on the lookout for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jotun, my number 3. Now, my top 2, it was back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
My number 2, Blood Incantation, Absolute.
Really? I thought that was going to be your number 1.
It was so close. It was absolutely close. But yeah. I mean, this album, it's a masterpiece. It really is. I mean, if Mike Portnoy, one of the drum gods, says that this is album of the year, you're not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I just have it at number 2 because there's just one more album I like just a little bit more, and mainly because I listened to it more because it came out earlier. But this is hands down, in my opinion, the best thing Blood Incantation has done, and they've been on a tear ever since they started. Even Time Wave Zero, I don't think is bad. It's something different. People should have expected it to be different because they said it was going to be different. So get over yourselves. But yeah, this 2 20-plus minute songs. That's enough to sell me on an album. I mean, but the Stargate itself and that music video. Holy crap. Like, everything. Like, big bolt thrower double times, Morbid Angel riffage, Time Ghoul, Chaos,
Pink Floyd.
Immolation, atonal riffs, and then of course your Pink Floyd Tangerine Dream moments. But I will say that section that starts at like 14 minutes, 27 seconds on the Stargate, that massive tremolo blast. Good Lord, that might be among some of the best tremolo riffs I've ever heard. And it felt like, holy shit, aliens are coming after us.
Mm-hmm.
And then the message itself is a great one that kind of adds a little bit of like, dare I say, Deftones vibes in the beginning. And then it gets into Tablet 2 where it's like total Pink Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tablet 3 channeling a little bit of late era Death at the beginning. So yeah, and of course Arthur Risk doing the production on here definitely helps a lot. So I can't wait to hear what they have in store next.
Mm-hmm.
But number one, in my opinion, the darkest album I've heard in a long time. Ulcerate Cut the Throat of God.
I had a feeling. I was thinking what could be your number one if it ain't Blood Incantation.
But yeah, this album, I mean, from the opening melody of To Flow Through Ashen Hearts all the way to the final melodies of the title track, I will say it's the darkest death metal album I've heard in a while. Like, holy crap. And to think, and perhaps my song of the year is To Flow Through Ashen Hearts. Simply put, that opening clean melody is such an earworm. And then, of course, the chaos it gets into. And as I keep saying, if you love later Gorguts from like Obscura to where they are now, Immolation, Deathspell Omega, and Neurosis, or insert any post-metal band, you get Ulcerate, but yet they still sound like themselves, which is hard to do today, but they do sound like themselves despite their apparent influences. I mean, also the opening melodies on Transfiguration In and Out of Worlds. Undying as an Apparition has tons of great melodic sections. And even further opening the wounds, there's even like harmonies that remind me of Death a little bit. But yeah, it's just dark, it's murky, and I will say arguably it's their catchiest album. I'm not going to quite say it because there might come the day where I'm going to rank Ulcerate, which I think will more than likely happen in 2026. I've already got 2025 set in stone for rankings. But yeah, this album is a masterpiece. If you haven't listened to it yet, check it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my list. So, Ricky, go ahead and talk about everybody else's lists first before getting into yours.
All right. So for Archer, he just had two albums that he listened to this year, which were The New Opus and Judas Priest's Invincible Shield. That's for Archer. For Hannah, and Hannah's list is always a mixed bag, which is that's why I always love her list. So at number 10, she has Lowen, Do Not Go to War with the Demons of Mazadran. Never heard of that one. Number 9, Over Liminal Animals, which that's a phenomenal album. And I know I saw your video yesterday about you not being a big Over fan, which it's understandable. It's not for everybody. Number 8, she had Julia Christmas, Ridiculous and Full of Blood. Number 7, Shamash, The Malador Chance, Old Oceans, which I need to listen to that Shamash album. Number 6, she had Surgeon Thunderhoof, The Ghost of Bad on Hill. Number 5, Chapel of Disease, Echoes of the Light. Number 4, Cano Fiber, Die Orchestrophe.
I've heard a lot of hype about that one.
Yes, it is really good. You should listen to it. Number 3, Ileton with Kinship. Getting a lot of love for Ileton. Number 2, Dot Street, Nocturnal Will. Phenomenal album. And number 1, Blood Incantation, Absolute Elsewhere. So that's everybody's list. I couldn't get Rafael's list. If he does, we'll mention it somewhere in the near future. But now to my top 10. So my top 10, again, always it's a mixed bag of everything because I like to listen to a lot of genres of metal, not just Death Doom and all that. So at number 10, My Dying Bride, A Mortal Beating. Now I want to get this out of the way before I begin into talk about the album. The controversy, or I guess fight between Aaron and the rest of the band, which is kind of weird because I've heard rumors that they didn't like the production, that it wasn't a really good album, or something around those lines. I don't know what the problem is. I think this is a phenomenal album.
Hmm.
Granted, I think it's a bit weaker than the Ghost of Orion because the Ghost of Orion was a tremendous return to the kind of their old school Death Doom, and with this one, I felt they were trying to go the same route, but weren't successful. But still, I mean, it's still great. It's still My Dying Bride. I mean, it's better than anything Anathema released in the latter year, but again, phenomenal album. And number nine, and you mentioned Paul Bearer lately, so my number nine, Paul Bearer, Mine Burns Alive.
Honorable
I
mention.
almost, I almost got tickets to see them back in, I think it was in May or June when they were touring in the States. I almost got tickets, but I couldn't go. But again, Paul Bearer is one of those bands that has changed their sound. I mean, think about how they started. They were like pure, like doom metal, and now I mean they're still doom metal, but they have more progress into like maybe progressive doom metal or even like avant-garde at times. But if you want to talk about one of the most beautiful songs of the year, I think, in my personal opinion, and if I remember the name of the song, I think my absolute beautiful song of the year might actually go to Daybreak. That song's it made me a bit kind of cry a bit. Not gonna lie, but still great band. I still a young band, so hopefully I get to see them live in the future. At number eight, Judas Priest, Invincible Shield.
Honorable
This has
mention.
been this has been on my high rotation in my workouts, and I don't know what the hell, but Rob is like close to 75 years old, and he still sounds amazing. I mean, the guys are in their 60s, 70s, and they pull
Besides
on.
Richie,
Yeah, they've been on a terror ever since when
firepower,
ever since Andy Sneap's kind of took production, and of course
and
from
playing live guitars
yeah,
too.
yeah. So I mean, because Firepower was my number one album of the year for that when it came out, and Invincible Shield again, keeping with the hits, classic rips, Panic Attack, Gates of Hell, Giants in the Sky. That song, Giants in the Sky, tribute to all of our fallen brothers in metal. I mean, my God. Again, one of those bands that I need to see live before they retire because they're my top five bands of all time. And will this be the last Priest album? Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to see.
I don't know with how good this one and firepower was. Sounds like they still
Yeah,
got more left in the tank.
probably,
Or maybe
probably,
not a gas tank, but maybe like a hybrid car, Judas Prius.
probably. Oh God, I hate that pun so much, but I love it. And speaking of the old guard, at number seven, Saxon Hellfire Damnation, another band that's been around since the 70s, and they've been on a terror of consistency, good ass albums. And again, I saw them live this year. I got to see them live. I was able to buy this copy in their live show with all of them signed, which is kind of cool. Again, Saxon, same thing with Priest. They've been getting consistently better. And Biff, he's in his 70s, still sings like a fucking banshee. I have no idea how these guys do it. I don't have no idea. Because you think of an old band in the 70s, you think they're all like all worn out, don't have the energy. No. These guys, Saxon, tour still states like crazy. And hell, they announced way in advance a tour for Texas before they go to Hell's Heroes. They announced a tour in San Antonio, and I already bought tickets to see them for the second time. Which again, I'm never gonna complain seeing Saxon more than once. A second time, fuck yeah. And of course, this has Brian from formerly Diamond Head, now on guitars, which good for him because after Diamond Head, I don't know what he was gonna do, but good thing Saxon got him before anybody else did. At number 6, and had in her top 10, Dottericht Nocturnal Will. Personally, my favorite sort of black metal album of the year, if I were to have to say so myself. Melodic, the riffs. I think these guys are from Sweden, if I remember correctly. But and Hannah knows this. She knows that when it comes to like melodic, grandiose guitar riff, this gets me, and this has a lot of it. The growls are great. Songs are like, I think the longest song is like close to like maybe 12 minutes, 13 minutes, if I remember correctly. But this is a brand new band that's been out for a couple of years. Things like their third album, fourth album, around there. Still brand new band. If you have not listened to Dodge today, give these guys a listen, give them some love. And now up to the top 5. Now, my number 5, I don't have it on CD, but I'll get it eventually, is Unto Others with Never Neverland. I like me some good old gothic rock, gothic metal, whatever you want to call them. Saw them live 2 years ago when they opened for Behemoth and Arch Enemy. Again, kind of gives me those vibes of the Sisters of Mercy, a bit of Typo Negative, a bit of maybe Him, a bit of
Maiden.
Yeah, a bit of Maiden, because they go on this album. There's
Classic metal moments in there.
Yeah, there's some fast songs. Which
Even some thrash moments too.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Unto Others is like, I mean, I know they had to change their name for legal reasons, but still, I liked all of their stuff. I hope to see them live. I was gonna see them live when Wasp was gonna announce their tour, but couldn't go. And then this shit with Wasp and them, which different debacle. But yeah, amazing album. Number 4, and I'm surprised you didn't have this in your top 10. Maybe you have it in your top 30. Borknagard Fall.
It was my number 12 on my top 30.
Yeah. So, full on confession, Fall to me, I think wasn't as big as the True North. Don't get me wrong.
Or Winter Thrice.
Yeah, but I think True North but it's up there. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's Borknagard. You know what you're gonna get with Borknagard. Melodic, black metal, grandiose, beautiful artwork. One of the most beautiful artworks of the year. It's like a waterfall, probably somewhere in Norway, I believe. But yeah, I mean,
2 choruses that stand out on there: Nordic Anthem and Wild Lingers.
Oh yeah, and Summits. The intro, it's so good. I mean, if I were to listen to an album for wintertime around this time, this would be my soundtrack, and I wouldn't be disappointed. Number 3. Now we're going to the top 3. Now this is where things really got rough for me, because I had to choose between pretty much my 2 favorite kids. But number 3, and you mentioned it, Ironton Kinship. It seems like a lot of us have been having Ironton high on the list for good reason. So I'm not going to pretty much review what you said, Levi, but I just want to say that the vocalist for Ironton, a lot of people don't know, is the same vocalist for Hamford, the Deaf Doom band, because a lot of people don't know that. Mm-hmm. Which I did have Hamford I did have Hamford as a consideration for my top 10, but I just went to my honorable mentions. Number 2, oh boy. Now this is where it got really, really tricky, because I had to choose between 2 albums that I think, to me personally, were the best in my taste. I had to go with my gut. I had to go with my heart. And at number 2, I give the Silver Crown to Blood and to Ancients Absolute Elsewhere. Pink Floyd, death metal galore. That's the first thing that popped in my head. You got a bit of synthwave there. You got bits of a
sci-fi ambient.
Yeah, and when I saw them live, when they played that Hidden History, that entire song, I never thought I was gonna get tired. I didn't. And listening to these songs, which are like 20 plus minutes, I still don't get tired. They're still phenomenal. I Every time I listen to them, I like discover something new. Like, oh, this is cool. Oh, this riff sounds better. Oh, this little time section is different or something like that. But
This breakdown is so immolation esque and it's evil.
oh yeah, immolation. Pink. Can you imagine if immolation went something like this in the future? Oh God. Which I don't know, not for this song doesn't fit, but maybe like a riff there and there or like a melodic section, but still, I mean, and also the packaging. Come on, I always thought that Blood Incantation sticks with their alien, I guess, theme. It's
Cosmic,
all
cosmic stuff.
cosmic. I almost bought the special edition, the one with the ashtray with the pyramid, because I think that's fucking cool. Even though I don't smoke,
Well, yeah.
even though I don't smoke, I will still have that as like a little decoration.
And actually, the other day I went ahead and ordered the Edition CD booklet, and it should be here either tomorrow or Tuesday.
Is that the one with the big box set?
Yeah, not the vinyl box; it's a CD box, but
Hmm.
it looks like a book, and
Mm-hmm.
it comes with the album, comes with a ambient soundtrack,
Mm.
comes with the Luminescent Bridge EP from last year,
Mm-hmm.
and a Blu-ray with like the surround sound Dolby Digital mix of the album and the documentary.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good.
It
So
was pretty expensive, but I was like, I just want it because I love the album so much.
yeah. All right. So my number one, my number one. Um, I've said this a billion times. It's always hard to choose your top one. And this year, a lot of great albums. But to me, and this might be a bit hypocritical for me, but I had to go with the album that I've been hyped up the most, even though for a lot of people it was a bit of a letdown. To me, it's still a phenomenal album. And for the third year, I'm giving it the crown of album of the year. Swallow the Sun with Shiny. Now, before anyone says anything, I know that the production on this album wasn't the greatest. I know who the fuck produced this album. I know, well, whoever produced the album. I know he's been
He's a
associated.
producer for Bring Me the Horizon. That's all you need to know.
Yes, I was gonna say Bring the Horizon. I think Muse. I think that's the producer. But to me, I know this was a bit of a experiment for Swallow Sun. I know that they try to do something different because I've listened to the interviews from Juha. He could
Mm.
not write another dark album after the two monster albums he released years ago from When It's Shadow and Moonflowers. He felt that if he write another album like that, he was gonna fucking kill himself for good reason. So, in other words, I think this album introduces a new element to the band that, yeah, don't get me wrong, there's still dark elements in the album.
Hmm.
Don't get me wrong, there's still dark elements. There's still great songs. But I felt that they try to go Catatonia esque. If there was an
Modern
album,
Catatonia.
modern Catatonia esque, I felt as this if there was a gap between Moonflowers and this album, like an album in between, this album would have been received better by the fan base because a lot of diehard fans, and I'm a diehard Swallow Sun fan, didn't like the album. I personally loved it. I don't know why people don't actually like it, but to me, the standout song is What Had Become. Shining is a
Yeah.
great song. Probably Cold, one of their old sonic kind of sounds like their old modern. November Dust, a great ballad. Velvet Chains, a great ballad. I don't know. For me, Swallow Sun can do no wrong. If I were to rank Swallow Sun again, probably this would be at the bottom, actually. And for me, they've been a band for many years that I've said they saved me. And even though I guess this year there was nothing that they could have saved me from in terms of like personally and physically, mentally, it's still a phenomenal album. And I'm a diehard Swallow Song fan, and I owe them a lot because they've helped me to the point that I actually am going to see them next year. And I bought the meet and greet. So for me, that's a big, big step for me. But yeah, for me, Swallow Sun Shining, my number one album of the year.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing with that Swallow the Sun album, the production completely ruined the album for me. Like,
Yeah,
especially the drums. The drums sounded way too electronic. Like, you can
yeah,
tell that producer who's done work with Bring Me the Horizon doesn't know how to produce Doom
yeah.
or
I,
Doom.
I, I hope that probably the next album they,
Go back to Jens
well,
Bogren. Go
yeah.
back
I
to
mean, don't
Jens
get me wrong.
Bogren.
Yeah, it depends. Probably is Bono with
Or hell, go with Andy Sneap. Why not?
Dan Swano. I would love for them to do Dan Swano.
I mean, Dan Swano did the production on Skeletal Remains.
I mean, it's
So,
surprisingly Dan Swano hasn't done anything with Swallow Sun for all this time. I know we've done it with he's done it with Catatonia, he's done it with a lot of bands. On
Asphyx.
on, on Thorns I Lay, which is kind of weird that he hasn't touched them, but maybe yeah, I don't know. But yeah, and
But yeah, it's like that album, like also too, like I totally get why they went into a slightly new sound. Well, not really a new sound, but like a new direction within, because
mhm,
of you being not wanting to write something crazily depressing and dark. But at the same time, that's what you go to Swallow the Sun for. You go for darkness. You go there to feel sad, or at the very least, feel angry. To me, the next album get back to the darkness, but more in an angry sense as opposed to a depressing sense, perhaps. Like
yeah,
maybe
it could happen.
something along the lines of like New Moon or something like that,
Pro
but with
oh,
more
mhm.
clean vocals.
Now if I were to put a
But that's
time frame on the if I were to put a time frame on the new Swallow Sun album, if I were to
probably
put a time frame,
2026, 2027,
I
somewhere
was
in there.
gonna say 2027, 2026, because right now they're gonna be doing the tour for the next year and a half, and I don't know, they might release another live album, which I wouldn't mind another live album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, ladies and gentlemen, that does it for our lists. So,
Mhm.
recap of my top 10. I had at number 10, Opeth, Last Will and Testament. Number 9, Skeletal Remains, Fragments of the Ageless. Number 8, Necrot, Lifeless Birth. 7, Laceration, Aya Road. 6, Dark Throne, It Beckons Us All. 5, Rip to Shreds, Sanchi. 4, Crypt Sermon, a Stygian Rose. 3, Jotun, Kinship. 2, Blood Incantation, Absolute Elsewhere. Number 1, Ulcerate, Cutting the Throat of God.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
I mean, I get good diverse list. I get my recap for my top 10, my Dying Bride, I'm more debating. Number 9, Paul Bear, Mind Burns Alive. Number 8, Judas Priest, Invincible Shield. Number 7, Saxon, Hellfire and Damnation. Number 6, Dostrick, Nocturnal Will. Number 5, Unto Others, Never Neverland. Number 4, Borknagar Fall. Number 3, Iotin Kingship. Number 2, Blood Condition Absolute Elsewhere. And number 1, Swallow Sun Shining.
although I guarantee you, after you listen to that new Ulcerate, it's going to go high on your list too. I guarantee
Probably it is. And probably it is. Yeah. Now for 2025 and my predictions for 2025. What could, because I know for 2025 we might get of course the new My Dream Theater album is gonna come out in 2025. That's gonna be a big album. Probably the new Possessed album is gonna come out in 2025. Um,
I mean, already, like, I guess I'll just go ahead and get through some of the
yeah.
ones on the list. I haven't looked at the archives for a little bit, but
Hmm.
January, as far as like big ones, you got Halo Effect,
Yeah.
Harakiri for the Sky, Gravedigger. Kind of an interesting one for me, Sarcator, which is essentially a name mixing Sarcophago and Creator. It's a black and thrash
Hmm.
band. New Maceration album, which is going to have a new vocalist. Dan Swano's not in there. Pentagram with a new album.
Ooh.
And then February 7th is stacked. Dream Theater, Obscura, Seor, Arab Altar, and then later in February 21st, Killswitch Engage finally releasing something
Mm.
new. and Scour's debut full length. So
Ooh.
Phil and the current former guys of Cow Decapitation and Misery Index. I can't wait to hear the whole deal since the recent song, the single they released for it, was killer. And then in March, New Destruction. So,
Oh yeah.
but after that, I don't know. But again, I'm going to save all my thoughts about that for when I do that video for
Yep.
you.
Now I'm predicting a new Cannibal Corpse album next year.
More than likely, yeah.
New Cannibal next year.
If I were to make a prediction, new Hooded Menace.
Yeah, I think it's about time we get a new Hooded Menace.
Yeah, this has been now the longest gap. So there you have it with that. So with that said, this will wrap up this episode. But before we go, a couple of announcements for future episodes, since we are looking to try and come back on a more regular basis in 2025. January, we've already got 2 interviews lined up. I haven't told Ricky the second one yet. The first one will be with Jesper from Eotune. The second one is going to be kind of special. We're going to be interviewing Sebastian Ronstedt from Necrophobic and Enophilian, the lead guitarist of. Yep. Because he commented on my year-end list, and I was like, because both Necrophobic and Enophilian were just on the outside of the top 10 for me. But Enophilian, Reaper Dawn, that was my black metal album of the year for me. Because, like, holy shit, the guitars on that album, because Sebastian's a phenomenal player. Same with Johann Bergbach, the rhythm guitarist, who's also in Enophilian. But yeah, Sebastian commented on my year-end list and was grateful that I gave the albums praise. And I was like, hey, maybe I'll come to the podcast. And we talked on Instagram. Anytime in January, we're going to talk to Sebastian, which is going to be killer. But of course, Jesper will be really good too, considering he's a great player. Yeah, more or less, the Horsemen podcast is slowly starting to become more about interviews rather than topics, because we basically covered everything. So we might as well.
I mean, not everything. There's still like a lot, but I mean, slowly but surely. You never know.
I think we've gone through everything. I think we've done all we can, and plus, like all the lists of vid stuff I do on my own now, anyway. So yeah, it's basically becoming more about getting interviews whenever we can. I mean, hell, we still got the possibility of talking to John McEntee from Incantation.
Oh yeah.
Which I still need to get in contact with him.
Yeah. Jet Becerra from Possessed 2. We've been trying to get him for a while.
Cool. Samantha from Frozen Soul would be cool.
Oh, yeah.
Hell, I actually do have another one set in stone, Ben from Acid Mass, to be on here, as well as possibly with him having Clarissa from Vicious Blade and Castrator on here too, because she's a feral vocalist.
Yeah.
So there's that. The possibilities are endless. Hell, for all we know, we could possibly talk to Michael Ockerfeld, for fuck's sake.
I mean, we never thought we were gonna talk to Dan Swano, and this guy was fanboying the whole time.
Yeah, and literally after we did that interview, I was like jumping for joy, like, "Oh my god, did that actually just happen?"
Yeah.
Still, and again, I still don't know what to say.
I still want us to. I mean, I know it's not gonna happen. I mean, who knows? Imagine James Hetfield, or Lars, or Tom Araya, Kerry King, King Diamond.
Best you can do is go around and ask.
Oh yeah,
especially I try and do a lot of time.
Yeah. Especially since I go a lot of shows, I have like a bit more connections. I mean, who knows?
But with all that said, we're going to wrap up this one. So thank you guys. Yeah, I know it's been a year since we've done an episode. As I said, we're going to try and get back onto it on a more regular basis if we can remember to. But anyways, I still, as far as on my channel here, still got a couple more videos to do. I got to do the video talking about bad metal albums and then the most anticipated albums of 2025, as well as my 50th CD collection update video, which I might be recording that pretty soon. So Yes, still got quite a few left to do before the year's over, and then January coming around. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But anyways, thank you guys who stuck around to watch. But until next time, keep your horns high and your dreams wet.
Bye.